Hello and welcome. So I'm doing something a little different today. I'm doing a little bit of a test here. I've got some new software that I'm interested in, and it is called Shuwa, and it's by Google. So this is out on GitHub, and Google actually has a lot of interesting software. So you probably want to take a look at a bunch of this stuff. But anyway, let's take a look at Shuwa. So the way to do this is, first of all, fork it. This way you'll make your own copy of it. You'll have your own repository called Shuwa in your own collection of repositories. And now you can go over here to code. And I always grab it with SSH. You're probably going to grab it with HTTPS. But I always like to use SSH because if you use SSH, you don't have to enter your password, username and password, every time you want to push the code back up. But anyway, just copy it by clicking on this, and then run over to your terminal. And I'm going to make this larger. And let's see. I've got I made a directory called code, and that's where I put all of my repositories that I'm looking at. So just do a git clone and paste in the URL you just copied. So git at github.com whatever your username is /shuwa.git. And I'm not going to do it because I already have that. The next step is to create a virtual environment. We're going to be installing a lot of Python modules, and we want particular versions of them, and they're going to conflict with the other software that we have in here that's Python. So we need to create a virtual environment, install all of those Python modules just into that virtual environment. We want to keep them separate. So the way to do that is to use a piece of software like Conda. You could use a PNV that comes with Python, or you can use Conda, or CreateENV is another package you can use. I really like Conda. I would highly recommend that you learn this. It's not very difficult to learn, and it's very helpful. And so you want to create this, and if you don't put the Python equals 3.6 on the end, it's going to give you a newer version of Python, and that's not going to work. This is very common. This Shuwa repository of Google's was probably created a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, and at that time Python 3.6 was probably the most recent version, and so that's what they created it with, and they never updated it. When you create these kinds of things, it's very unusual to update the Python version. And so when you install Python modules, you want to install the ones for whatever Python was used to create the project. Now, the installation instructions never tell you what version of Python to use. So you can just try different ones until you get the right one. What will happen is you'll create this. I'm not going to create it because I've already done it. And then you do a conda activate Shuwa. I'm not going to do that because I use dir.env. I'm just going to cd into Shuwa. And you'll see over here, I'm in the base environment right now. You see this here? This little emoji thing here is the conda. It's supposed to be a Python wrapped up. So this is the conda base. As soon as I go into Shuwa, you'll see this changes from base to Shuwa, and that's because I have dir.env in here. I've got a .env file in here, a .envrc file, and it's got these two lines in it. It's sources, conda.sh here, miniconda3 etsy profile d conda.sh. That sets up the conda environment, and then does a conda activate Shuwa in here. And in order to get dir.env, you've got to do a sudo apt install dir env, and then once you set up the .envrc file, you have to do a dir env allow from within the directory, from within the shuwa, this directory here, tilde code shuwa, and that's all there is to it. Then you never have to do a conda activate again. It just saves you a lot of time in the long run if you're jumping around from environment to environment for projects. Believe me, dir env is pretty sweet. Saves a lot of time. But anyway, once you get this far, now you want to do a pip3 install requirements. Let's go .text. Is that right? pip3 install -r requirements.txt, like this. And so if you have not chosen the correct version of Python when you created your virtual environment, you'll get failures during this installation process. It'll say, oh, you asked for this module, but it's not compatible with this thing that you have, and so on and so forth. So if you see those kinds of errors, don't freak out. Just means that you have the wrong version. I'm not going to do this because I've already done it. And then, so what do you do if you find out that you installed the wrong version of Python? How do you fix that? Well, it's not that hard. You do a conda deactivate. I'm not going to do that, but that's what you do. And then you do a conda, and it's remove env shuwa, and that'll get rid of it. And then you can do the conda create again, and this time put the right version of Python in. So, all right, we've done all this. Let's go back here to the README file. It talks about shuwa is Japanese for sign language. It detects whatever. And, you know, it's got detectors, and it's got key points, and it's got a classifier. And so what it should do is it should take your gestures and convert them over to words, I guess. Haven't gotten that far with it, but all right, so this is as far as we've gotten so far. And then it says we can do this thing here. Just paste that in, and let's see if this works. Wasn't working before because the webcam was already grabbed by OBS. Ah, there we go. So OBS, once I deleted the device in OBS, now we can see it here on the screen cam. And so if I right click in here, no, not getting it. I don't see that there's any way for me to make this larger from here. Well, anyway, you can see that when I put my hands up there, it's detecting all kinds of things. It's watching my face. Let me get a little closer, and maybe you can see things going on my face here. You can watch my mouth open and close, and these little red lines open and close with it. And I don't know what's going on down here. Get a little closer to the screen. There's some buttons here. There's the record, there's the play mode. Let me click on some of this stuff here and see what happens. Let me click on the play mode here, and let me see if it starts to. All right, so that's stopped the. Let's go back to the record mode. So when I'm in record mode, then you can see me in the camera. When I hit the play mode, so I guess this allows me to save what I'm doing here, but it's not allowing me to, it's not allowing me, yeah, so here it is. To add more sign here, we got stop and record. All right, so it looks as though you're able to put in some kind of a word here and hit save, and then well, let's see if this works here. Let's hit record. And, all right, let's type something in here. All right, so unfortunately, it's really just about impossible to see this. Stop this here. Let's see if I could type anything in here. All right, well, it doesn't seem to be working for me, and what I suspect is that I don't have my environment set up properly. I think that at the very least, Python path will have to be updated for this. But it looks as though what happens is you put some word in here, and then you record a gesture, and then under play mode, if you do the same gesture, it should show you the word that you've put in there. And there are a bunch of scripts here, and so let's take a look at one of these here, the hand landmark. I'm going to CD into this hand landmark here because I copied in this croputils.py. I'm going to remove that croputils.py and come back out here. And so let's take a look at this. Let's copy this, and this is going to fail. I'm going to paste this in here, and of course it doesn't work. And so you may ask yourself, why isn't it working? Well, take a look at this. This is a backslash. So that's for Windows. That's not for Linux. So let's do a Python 3. And then we want this hand. And then hit the tab. Landmark. And you see it puts a / in this time. And there we go. And so now it comes back and it says, no module named croputils. So now I can copy the croputils into the hand landmark, and now I can run this again. And this works. There we are. We're up here. We're getting all kinds of whatever here. And you can see me wave my hand around, and it's creating lines on the screen, and so on and so forth. And this one, I think, this one we can zoom in on here by right-clicking on it. So anyway, I'm going to play with this and figure out what's going on. But I think that this should give you a good start. Now, one of the things that we can take a look at here is we go back to the Google Shuwa repository. I'm going to make this larger so I can see everything. And let's go into the Issues tab here. And there are no issues in here. This is unfortunate. A lot of times you can find answers to the questions you have in the issues, whatever. So let's open a new issue here. And we'll call this README. So first of all, let's say thank you for this interesting software. Always say something nice that people have done all this work and they're sharing it with you. They don't have to do that. Don't come in and say, you know, your software sucks and I'm having problems with it and poor me and whatnot. Because they don't need to hear that. They did something nice for you, so at the very least, thank them. So the first problem we had is what version of Python should I use? 3.8 fails. 3.6 works, but is it best? Also, let's see now, what was the name of that program? Go back to the terminal so I can see it. Let's bring it up. Fails. Firstly, let's change this back. Put this back to a backslash. This needs a forward slash, not a backslash. Also, all right, so what was the name of that? Let's just, I don't want this, CD hand landmark. All right, so this was a crop utils. Crop utils. Does something need to be added to Python path? Any other tips would be appreciated. Ideas or any other hints I think would be the best. Oh, by the way, I can't type in to record on, what was that other demo called? ... It was the first demo. I guess it was extract kmn features.py. Input. Thanks again. All right, so this is how to. They want you to. So you should also say pop OS 20.04. Alright, so they usually want you to tell them at least what operating system you're using. And then you can preview that and submit the new issue. So issues are your friend when you're going through these repositories. Alright, so I wouldn't be surprised if I get an answer to this pretty quickly. People watch their repositories. They're very proud of them, and they tend to be quite active. And you can see this repository here has gotten really no interest. Let me see if I can find it again here. So this has 41 stars. That's all. It's got one fork. I'm the only one who's forked it. It's updated 12 days ago. I don't know how old this is. Let's see. Take a look at some of these files and see just how old they are. Well, this looks like it's only about a month old. Of course, it's impossible to tell, but every file here has been touched in the last month. So this looks like it's quite new repository. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this and that you learned something and that you'll go out now and create a bunch of interesting projects. And so if you do, please share them. Thank you very much.